It's mid-July, it's Silverstone. The weather's indifferent, but we have a full house, 100,000, all inside with no reported traffic problems. It's race 11 in the championship, the British Grand Prix, with Martin Brundle and James Allen.
Thank you very much, Jim. Afternoon, everybody. Well, what a cracking atmosphere, particularly as Jenson Button came to the grid, but really as all these drivers came to the grid. Kimi Raikkonen, Rubens Barrichello, Michael Schumacher, they applauded and hooted them all. A wonderful, wonderful atmosphere here. A sellout crowd, as Jim was saying, at Silverstone. And typically autumnal July weather and one of the best racing tracks in the world. There's a man with a lot of national expectation on his shoulders. Had British hearts racing yesterday when he set a great lap to snatch third place on the grid. Back in 2000, when he made his Formula One debut here at Silverstone, he passed Michael Schumacher on the first lap. Great memories for him. And today he's alongside the maestro on the grid. There's a look at the 17-turn Silverstone track, of which 6 of the corners are 150 mile an hour plus. One of the fastest circuits on the World Championship, average lap speed 140 miles an hour. And there's a man with a little bit of work to do this afternoon. He's been outclassed so far this weekend by his teammate Rubens Barrichello. Schumacher starting 4th on the grid, Barrichello 2nd, but who would bet against this man who is so very good at thinking on his feet? Chasing his 80th Grand Prix victory today, Michael Schumacher. There's Jenson, and there is Kimi Raikkonen on pole position. Amazing to think, isn't it, that McLaren qualified for the first Grand Prix of 2004 in 10th and 12th places in Melbourne, Australia. And here they are, just after the halfway point in the championship with a revitalised package, and Raikkonen sits on pole position today. Can he win the Grand Prix? Well, that will be something else if he can. Certainly he's been had the swagger back, Kimi Raikkonen, a man who likes to carry himself confidently around the paddock. The first half of this season the car has not been performing and Raikkonen's had the shoulders down a little bit, but all this weekend he's been fast, top of the timesheets in 3 of the 4 practices, and pole when it counted. There's the grid then, the front half of it. Fernando Alonso did qualify in 6th place yesterday, but because he had to change his engine, he's dropped to the back of the grid. That's good news for David Coulthard, pushes him up to the same row as Jarno Trulli. Watch out for Trulli pipping Schumacher off the start-finish line. And we heard from Ferrari technical director Ross Brawn just there on the grid that he feels the Bridgestone tyres have the advantage at the moment on the cooler track, and expects the Michelins on the Williams and the Renaults, the McLaren and the BAR to struggle a little bit in the opening phase of this Grand Prix. So we will see whether or not that happens. The weather, hard to predict as always here at Silverstone. We've had some cracking Grand Prix here over the last few years where a little sprinkling of rain has spiced things up a little bit. There's a man who's won here twice in the past, 99 and 2000, back-to-back Silverstone victories for David Coulthard. And Martin, what price a British victory today? Jenson Button 3rd on the grid, David Coulthard in 6th. How do you read it?
Well, as you say, DC's won it twice. He races better here than he seems to qualify. We'll find out how much fuel they've got in the car. I'm expecting them to stop, the front runners to stop probably 3 times today. It's all about stopping Michael and Rubens winning, isn't it? I think the strongest chance of that is Raikkonen, of course, and Jenson Button. Trulli and Coulthard should be there in a watching brief. Williams don't appear to have a good setup at this stage. We'll see how it unfolds. Maybe they're missing Ralf Schumacher's technical abilities in there, because they seem to be well off the pace, but Montoya will wring its neck greater than anybody else, I would imagine, would do this afternoon. So I think we're set for quite an intriguing Grand Prix.
Seemed like a nice atmosphere on the grid, a lot of people around, a lot of familiar faces, and generally a very good, positive, friendly atmosphere at Silverstone this week. In a sense, for me, rather like Montreal, they feel this Grand Prix might be under threat, the British public, and they've come out in their numbers to support it. And what I'm really impressed with is how the crowd right below our commentary position, it's a real mixture of colours, isn't it? There's BAR hats, Ferrari hats, Williams. There's a tremendous spread of support.
Yes, there is. We had nearly as many people here yesterday for qualifying as came last year for the race itself. They've adjusted the ticket pricing, which has helped a bit. What I really appreciated yesterday was whoever did a good job in qualifying got a cheer and a round of applause, whatever colour hats or t-shirts the fans were wearing. British fans, as ever, very, very knowledgeable on Formula One, the sport they seem to love. The green light lap then, This is they're still, of course, using up their valuable fuel as they go around on this, so they want to save as much as they can, but get brake temperature, tyre temperature, prepare themselves for the Grand Prix. Once again, critically, it's a Michelin runner on pole, so Raikkonen should be pretty steady going around here to give himself a better chance of ensuring Barrichello should not be up alongside him going into the first corner. And I know that they're on the tail then of the Minardi. That's John Boy Walton, who sadly died 2 days ago, the technical director of the Minardi team. Everybody very cut up in the paddock, very cut up.
Yes, indeed. Yes, he wanted the Minardi team, would have wanted the Minardi team to race this weekend. That was what his family and friends believed, and being a true racer, you'd have to go along with that. He was one of the great racers, John Walton. So off they go on the formation lap. As always, the mechanics pulling all the heavy equipment back into the pit lane. Just to bring you up to speed for those of you who don't follow Formula One regularly, they qualified yesterday with fuel in the car with which they start the Grand Prix. So when Martin said they're expecting the first cars to come in perhaps around lap 9 or 10, those are people who've decided to run light in qualifying to get a good grid slot, but they'll pay a small penalty for that, possibly a big one. Time will tell when the first round of pit stops come through. So it's not like the old days where you qualify with no fuel in the car or hardly any. In current Formula One, you carry some, and it's up to you how much you carry. So it could be quite a big difference between the fuel loads in some of these cars. Jenson Button, Martin's certainly been putting it about last night and again this morning. He believes he's got quite a bit more fuel in his car than the two in front of him, Raikkonen and Barrichello. If you're going to say that kind of thing, you kind of need to back it up. You can't magic up fuel from nowhere. You've got to make a later pit stop, really. So that'll be very intriguing to see. But you'd have to say that the BAR so far not really had the pace of the Ferrari. Can Jenson find the extra crowd power to push him along here this afternoon?
Yes, what I asked Jenson about on the line was I heard this morning that they had to change some of their latest aerodynamic pieces because they were unstable in the high wind conditions that we're having, causing them some difficulty, some inconsistency. So hopefully that will not slow him down too much. But it's a little bit like I'll knock you out in the third round, isn't it? It's all the talk before the bout starts, and we'll find out soon enough who is all the smoky mirrors and counter misinformation that's been going on in the paddock. And other people say, okay, well, I'm going to absolutely tell you what we're doing because there's no point in lying to you, but then you find out 2 hours later that they had a completely different fuel level in their car. Charlie Whiting, race director.
The race director, the man who decides to send out safety cars, who pushes the start buttons, the man who runs Grand Prix racing in the truest sense of the word. I love this moment before a Grand Prix. The expectation builds.
I started, I think, 10 or 11 of these, and the right-hand side of the grid does have good grip here, no doubt about it. Although it's not the racing line, it's traditionally not as difficult as some race circuits.
Britain's biggest day of motorsport starts any time now. Turn up the sound and enjoy. 20 Formula One cars. Go! Great start by Raikkonen. Look at Schumacher as well, trying to block Trulli. That was smart by Michael Schumacher. He cut Trulli out. Buttons takes up his third place. But crucially for Michael Schumacher, Trulli didn't get him. And look at the Williams going wide there.
Yes, it's Grasskreek in there, got away with it. Must have been Montoya. Fabulous start then from Raikkonen with a comfortable lead. And this is the moment where the Michelins have more grip until the Bridgestones that the Ferraris on are up to speed. Can Button do anything about Barrichello heading down to Stowe? Be one of his best chances. He's a bit too far behind.
Look at Sato diving down the inside of Montoya into Stowe corner. That's a battle for 7th place. And Sato, as we know, is a very racy customer. Has he made it stick? Yes, he has. There you can see Montoya's having a go back at him though. Wow, they're side by side. Now Sato's got the lead again of the two of them. Raikkonen leads, Barrichello second, Button is third, Michael Schumacher fourth, Trulli fifth, sixth is Coulthard, seventh is Sato, and eighth is Juan Montoya. Great opening lap.
Yeah, some brilliant driving, and Montoya still ready to have a go at Sato. He got a great start, Montoya, ended up trying to go around the outside of Coulthard, lost out, and Sato got a clean run at him. Raikkonen, Barrichello, Button, Michael Schumacher, Trulli, Coulthard, Montoya seventh then. It's showing on the computer here, that must surely be wrong. And Webber, Massa 10th at the moment. Over the line then, Raikkonen with an enormous lead.
What a terrific opening lap by Kimi Raikkonen as he flashes across the start-finish line. That was the kind of thing you're used to seeing from Michael Schumacher, and now the two Ferraris, you can see Barrichello being dropped at the moment by Raikkonen, but we expect him to pick the pace up. Button is in front of Michael Schumacher, so as we predicted, Schumacher having some work to do here this afternoon, but one or two little paddock rumours that Schumacher's got 2 or 3 laps more fuel in his car than Rubens Barrichello. So we'll wait to see if that pans out the way as predicted, and it looks like Sato is holding off Montoya at the back there. Montoya unable to attack behind, and here's Alonso cutting his way through the field. He's in 14th place at the moment.
Started well down because of an engine change, and clearly he's not in a position on the track that matches the speed of his car, so we'll watch him coming through the pack. 14th at the moment, as you say, James. Raikkonen's lead was 3.5 seconds at the end of lap 1. Let's see if the Ferraris can stabilise that now, and crucially Jenson Button really also able to keep a distance between himself and 4th place man Michael Schumacher. The race then has settled down into a little bit of a pattern now, and Raikkonen all over the show in Luffield, desperately trying to hang on to the back of the car. He's pushing for all he's worth.
He certainly is. He's set very fast 2 sectors. He's really leaning on this McLaren. It's been a long time for Kimi Raikkonen since he's had a sniff of victory, but give a really good Grand Prix driver a sniff and he'll rise to the occasion.
4.3 seconds, and Michael went across the cut-off truly straight away, and it worked very well for him. And look how bad the Ferraris were on the left-hand side of the front, but they managed to muscle their way through there. Jenson Button very close to collecting Michael Schumacher for 3rd and 4th, and back down the field, some skillful driving, no contact. And look, is that it looks like Sato went wide on the exit of Beckett's, and Montoya has taken him through Chapel Curve, down then into Stowe. Montoya seizes the place back. That's 7th from Sato. I would imagine it'll be Sato getting it wrong in Beckett's corner, and then losing momentum on the exit.
2 of the most aggressive and racy drivers in Formula 1 going at it hammer and tongs on a track on which you can overtake. All of the support races this weekend, Martin, we've seen loads and loads of overtaking, which we don't often see in the Formula 1 tracks that we go to, just underlining what a cracking racing circuit Silverstone is. Remember last year, Barrichello passing cars left, right and centre, and we're seeing it again here this afternoon. Raikkonen leading then at the end of lap 3. He was 4.5 seconds clear of Barrichello. Here's Sato going wide.
Yeah, it was on the, as I suspected, it was then on the exit. He's so lucky there's now tarmac down there instead of gravel, otherwise it would have ripped his car to pieces. And Sato then out of shape in the final tighter part of Beckett, giving Montoya an easy pass. The lead, 4.2 seconds. Barrichello on lap 3 matches Kimi Raikkonen. The Ferrari tyres up to temperature. Now we're going to see where they really are at this afternoon, James.
Certainly are. Raikkonen leads 4.2 from Barrichello. Button is 3rd. He's just over 5 seconds behind the race leader on the 4th lap of 60 here at Silverstone. Michael Schumacher 6 seconds behind Kimi Raikkonen at the moment. Jarno Trulli 8 seconds behind the leader. Coulthard is 9, and Montoya, having got ahead of Sato, 10 seconds behind the race leader at the moment. And side by side you can see Alonso there attacking Cristiano De Mata. Alonso making it up into 12th place now, and once again we saw it in Bahrain, didn't we, Martin? Coming through from the back of the field, this guy is mustard.
Yeah, let's see, Trulli up in 5th place doing 121s. Alonso in traffic doing 22s. We're on board with Michael Schumacher in Bridge Corner into Priory then. We saw him spin off heavily there in free practice, and that is our man Jenson Button. He can see lined up in the sights. All of those antennas and aerials, pitot tubes down the front of his car, the perfect sight then to line up the gearbox of Button. But Button seems to be keeping him away. Barrichello closes the gap to Raikkonen.
Yep, takes it down to 4 seconds, and crucially, Martin, Jenson Button with Michael Schumacher behind him. Schumacher is losing 0.6 of a second a lap to Rubens Barrichello in an identical Ferrari here. He now drops back to over 6 seconds behind the race leader, and that's going to be very interesting for Michael Schumacher's race strategy. He's going to need Button either pass him on the track or need him to come in before he does, because otherwise this could harm his chances of beating his teammate Rubens Barrichello. And well, certainly comparing their histories here, Barrichello the winner here last year, but this has never been one of Michael Schumacher's favourite circuits. He's never gone, amazing to say, particularly well here. He's won it twice, which is nothing compared to what he's done other places. Here's a battle though between Christian Klien and Giorgio Pantano. That's the scrap for 14th place on the track. The Jaguar has got ahead of the Jordan, so Klien up to 14th.
Yes, he's certainly a bit lacklustre on his grid slot, Klien. We have seen him race well. They're also ahead of Fisichella then, who was similarly penalised for changing an engine. I thought Fisichella might be coming through a little bit faster than that. And Coulthard is also catching Jarno Trulli for 5th and 6th. You're watching 15th, 16th and 17th then in that picture. But lots of action all the way through the field, and Ted has further news for us.
Just been into Williams. The engineers advised him to change some things in the car, to turn the revs up to try and get past Sato. That was crucial because Sato can run longer than Montoya in the first stint.
Yeah, there's a great scrap just shaping up now between Trulli, Coulthard and Montoya, the 5th, 6th, 7th place battle. Montoya has hauled the others in now, and got ahead of Takuma Sato in the early phases of the race. The back of the day, you can see at the very top of your screens now, Trulli, Coulthard, Montoya, all together. That's the battle for 5th place, and they've dropped Sato, haven't they, after a strong couple of laps, opening laps from Sato. He seems to have fallen away there.
That's Minardi then smoking badly. Baumgartner's car. They've already had an engine change this weekend, so that's particularly bad news then for the Minardi team, who have really had a dismal one. Really has been a sad and difficult weekend for them due to their sporting director. We talked about John Boy Walton losing his life earlier this week, so let's hope they're not going to have a difficult afternoon too, but the signs are not good.
On board with Schumacher in the complex. 90 miles an hour there, 56 on the apex of this corner into Woodcote corner. Picking up the pace then, crossing the start-finish line about 150 miles an hour. Kimi Raikkonen, though, is already into Copse. Man who challenged Michael Schumacher last year for the World Championship, came within 2 points of beating him in Suzuka, but Schumacher, the wily old fox, managed to take his 6th World Championship. I think Raikkonen came in, I know Raikkonen came into this championship this year really buoyed up by that, really keen to get stuck into Schumacher again. And what colossal disappointment for him and the whole McLaren team when their new car failed to perform, as I say, qualifying 10th and 12th for the first Grand Prix in Australia. It's been a very, very lean start to the season. One of the worst ever in McLaren's history, but here at Silverstone on home soil with plenty of their employees in the grandstands, McLaren are definitely declaring, we are back.
Just to put some numbers on that, McLaren at this stage last year had 85 points compared to the 22 they now have. And are they pleased to see this new MP4 19B car? And they're starting to get good reliability too with the extra speed, which is a double whammy, isn't it? That's good for them and good for us because it's brought them back into the mix. Montoya beginning now to join the battle for 5th, 6th and him in 7th. That's going to be a good one as it unfolds through the afternoon, James.
Yeah, it's very interesting to see the pace of Raikkonen and Barrichello. There's really nothing in it. Raikkonen's just set his fastest lap of the Grand Prix so far. Barrichello's taking a 10th or 2 out of him every lap, but nothing much. We ride on board though with Juan Montoya. We're in 7th place in the British Grand Prix, and we've got Jarno Trulli and David Coulthard ahead of us. We flick it into Copse Corner at 165 miles an hour, pulling over 3G laterally, pulling your head off your shoulders, and then down into one of the most spectacular sequences of corners in Formula One racing. This is Beckett's. This is what the drivers absolutely love. Coming down onto the Hangar Straight then, terminal velocity down here, 190 miles an hour under the bridge before hitting the brakes into Stowe Corner, 120 miles an hour. Montoya then keeping Coulthard and Trulli honest in the back of the 5th. They're about 13 seconds now behind race leader Kimi Raikkonen, that scrap there. So losing ground around about a second a lap.
Barrichello has got the gap down to 3.8 seconds, then just nibbling away at Raikkonen's lead. He's got the faster car at this stage of the Grand Prix. Alonso up to P12 now and all over the back of Janay, who's having a crucial afternoon in the Williams, isn't he? He wants to keep that seat, and Williams must be thinking about trying Pitzonia, the other test driver in there, to replace the absent Ralf Schumacher.
And interestingly, news coming from Mario Tyson of BMW yesterday that Ralf Schumacher says he expected to be back in the car for the Hungarian Grand Prix, obviously doctors permitting. Now, we just caught a glimpse there of Michael Schumacher and Jenson Button, the battle for the final podium place in 3rd, and Schumacher is now closing right up onto the back of Button. And this is going to be the point of interest, I think, for the next part of the Grand Prix in the lead up to the first round of pit stops. Somebody's dived into the pits already. It's Fernando Alonso in the Renault from 13th place. So we're getting into the zone now. And Schumacher, well, we're riding on board with him now. And is that Button in front? Looks like Schumacher's lost some ground there on Button. He was right behind him at the end of the last lap. If that is the case, that's very interesting. So there goes Alonso, back out onto the track, the first man to pit this afternoon.
And how strange is that? He knew he'd got a 10-place drop on the grid with an engine change, so why didn't they just fuel him up and lose a couple more? That's really strange tactics there from Renault with Fernando Alonso. And you're right, Schumacher has made a slip somewhere and has dropped back from Jenson Button. Raikkonen leads by 3.5. Button, you can see in the foreground, 2.8 behind him. Michael Schumacher fourth. Which Ferrari is it we're expecting in the pit lane? Here comes Raikkonen past our commentator. It's Rubens Barrichello. Barrichello pits then. That's great news for Raikkonen and Button. They're carrying more fuel.
Absolutely, this is going to be an important stop for Barrichello. How much fuel does he put in? So tell us a little bit about his plan for the afternoon. The answer to that, we'll be working it out, but that's quite a lot of fuel going into Rubens Barrichello's car. As I said before, he had 3 laps less fuel going into this Grand Prix than Michael Schumacher, and that's quite a big deficit. Looks like the Williams team are pitting one of their cars as well. I think that's Marc Gené from 11th place coming in. Fairly quiet Grand Prix once again for the stand-in for Ralf Schumacher.
2 pieces of news from the F1 ITV pit crew. We think the Minardi smoking was just an overfill of oil, so let's hope that's the case, and that's very good news. Alonso pitted early because he was getting held up in traffic, almost inevitable really, but he must be out of position now in terms of the strategy. Only slightly, they can repair that as the race unfolds. This is the race for 5th, 6th and 7th. Truly Coulthard, Montoya, neither of whom have pitted, so nobody at the moment other than Barrichello in the top 10 have made a pit stop.
Yeah, Barrichello put about 55 kilos of fuel into the car in that stop. That'll take him around about 17 or 18 laps. Is this for Coulthard or Kimi Raikkonen? We're hearing from the pit crew. I believe it might be for Coulthard. Let's wait and see. Kimi Raikkonen leading the Grand Prix by 6 seconds. Jenson Button of Great Britain in 2nd place. Michael Schumacher sets the fastest lap of the race so far, as David Coulthard does indeed come into the pits. Schumacher then back with Jenson Button. Whatever little slip he made out on the track, he lost ground to Button, but he's making it back again now. Fastest lap of the race to Michael Schumacher. Trulli is 4th, Montoya 5th, Sato 6th as Coulthard pits.
Stunning pace this afternoon. Already over a second a lap faster than last year's fastest lap time. I know we had some slightly inclement conditions, but the track was good then too, so a really stellar pace. Coulthard will feed back in between the Jordans by the looks of it, and Michael Schumacher is absolutely flying. That's effectively down in about 14th place. This is an overtake then. Alonso going past one of the Toyotas of Panis, it would seem, down there. So Alonso now making his way back through the field after that early stop.
Yeah, it must be frustrating for him. He'd already been carving his way through the back markers, and now he has to go and do it all over again. There is the man riding in 2nd place in the British Grand Prix. We believe he might be coming in to make a pit stop fairly soon. He's got the Cross of St George on his helmet. There he goes to start another lap. We've got Kimi Raikkonen, the race leader, into the pits.
Yes, the McLarens tend to pit 1 lap apart. Ted.
That is a fantastic performance. You've got to say qualifying performance by Kimi Raikkonen. But let's see if he's staying on a 3 or switching on a 2. What's the time on that, guys? That's 7.5. So that's only about 16 laps worth of fuel. That's a 3-stop staying on strategy.
Yes, and a tweak on his front wing too. So quite clearly the balance not quite as he wants, despite his comfortable lead. Raikkonen then back out with more fuel, fresh tyres, and a slight change of aerodynamic balance as Montoya pits from 6th place.
And now I expect we will see some real pace from Michael Schumacher. He is now in the lead of this Grand Prix. He has maybe 1, maybe 2 more laps of fuel, and this is where he's got to do some work. Out on track, you can see Kimi Raikkonen is now tucked up behind Takuma Sato, teammate of Jenson Button, and yet to make a pit stop. So this is a battle for position on the racetrack. Sato currently 5th.
Worst case scenario then for Raikkonen in that respect. He cannot afford to lose half a second, let alone the 2 or 3 seconds he's going to lose, I think, following Sato around. And Coulthard now coming back through, passing the Jordan for position, that is, because of his pit stop. So Raikkonen, Coulthard and Co have taken quite early stops. It's, as we thought, a 3-stopper shaping up.
Gianmaria Bruni pits for the Minardi team. They've taken all the sponsors off that car, it looks like, here today. And you can see 9 seconds flat. And as I predicted, Michael Schumacher turns the wick up, 19.2. 2-2-3, fastest lap of the Grand Prix so far. This is where he's got to start doing his work, because he did lose ground at the start of the Grand Prix, didn't he? Behind the front three, I should say, of Raikkonen, Button and Rubens Barrichello. And here you can see Sato holding Raikkonen up, it would seem, at the moment. Raikkonen has a very, very good fast car under him today, and he needs to get on with it here, particularly as Schumacher is getting on with it.
Yeah, that's hurting him through those high-speed turns, and Raikkonen has to clear Sato. They're out there doing sort of 121s, late 120s. It's costing Raikkonen dearly, and now he's trying to have a go down the outside. There'll be no space there when he gets to Copse. It's a replay of the previous lap, and Raikkonen desperately trying to clear Sato. Jenson Button then remains, it seems, ahead of Michael Schumacher.
There's Schumacher coming out of Woodcote Corner to complete yet another lap. He did go long, didn't he, on the fuel? That's why he was. That's why he wasn't quite so quick in qualifying. Fourth place, half a second down on Kimi Raikkonen.
A 1:18.9 he's just done. I meant to say Barrichello rather than the Michael before with Jenson, but incredibly a 1:18.9 for Schumacher. That's 2 seconds faster than anybody else is going out there at the moment as they get back up to speed with their tyre change. And look, can Raikkonen make it stick up the inside now of Copse? Yes, he can, and that is crucial, but it must have cost him about 4 seconds so far. That's hurt him bad. His lead was about 3.5.
Trulli pits, good stop by Renault, 7.7, out he goes. He passed him into Copse Corner. That takes a bottle, doesn't it? 165 mile an hour corner.
He just had to stay on in there, didn't he, and hope that Sato would get out of the way. Sato's not normally well known for shying away from coming together. He doesn't normally jump out of the way, but Raikkonen with the quicker and slightly lighter car, I think.
I'll tell you what's interesting though, Martin, in the opening phase of this race, Rubens Barrichello was ahead of Jenson Button. He made his first stop on lap 9. Button came in 2 laps later, and look, Jenson Button has actually jumped Rubens Barrichello as a result of that first round of pit stops. Great news for the Brit then. He's ahead of one of the 2 Ferraris. Michael Schumacher, though, has yet to make a stop. He's going faster still. Fastest first and second sectors so far in this lap. A 1:18.739. The man is on fire. He's flying around this track now. Has he done enough to take the lead of this Grand Prix? Well, we'll find out shortly. It seems to me he had a big mountain to climb.
And the really bad news is that Button too now is coming up behind some traffic, albeit, as you say, having cleared Barrichello. Jenson Button is going to lose some time. Michael must have been about 6.5 seconds away from the lead. Has he done enough to just simply leapfrog straight into the lead in this one zone of the Grand Prix? His lap times are stunning.
They are indeed. Raikkonen did lose time. He's losing time again here now. 2 seconds he lost on the last lap, trying to get past Takuma Sato through this traffic with the Minardi as well. Certainly Michael Schumacher has stayed out a few laps longer than Raikkonen, and has it been enough? There's a tremendous, look at it, it's like the car park at Sainsbury's down there on the Hangar Straight. Mark Webber in the mix as well. He's battling away with Jenson Button behind him. That's for position. Webber yet to stop in the Jaguar in 4th place.
See, this is the problem. When the computer tells you a 3-stopper is faster, you can't really take into consideration exactly how the back markers are going to fall. So what you've got are the 3-stoppers trying to make their way through the 2-stoppers here, and that is why you're seeing 4 and 5 abreast there. Button desperately trying to get past his teammate. They're on different strategies, and Sato lets him go. That's great news for Jenson Button as Michael Schumacher pits from the lead. Where is he going to come out, James?
Well, he had 23.3 seconds before this stop. We will see. 16 plus the stationary time is what you need. That's 25. Raikkonen should grab it, but look at the traffic jam he's in. Down the pit straight goes Schumacher. Raikkonen flashes past. There he is on the right of your screen. Schumacher can now hit the gas as he comes out of the pit lane. Is he ahead? Raikkonen's going to catch up with him. Is he? Not quite. And Michael Schumacher, is that Kimi Raikkonen? I think it is. Yes, it is indeed.
Yep.
And that's the lead to change then.
It's leapfrogged completely.
He has completely
into
leapfrogged him as a result of those fast laps and the traffic for Kimi Raikkonen.
Amazing. Yeah, so that's what it was then. Michael on very, very hot laps while the others pitted and then got caught up in traffic. Somehow, miraculously, everything cleared out of Michael's way, and he's gone from 4th to 1st. And now he's got it. Now we'll see just how fast Raikkonen is, but it's Raikkonen who's got to get into the dirty air now. He'll be so amazed and frustrated to see the Ferrari. He would have thought initially he would have been sure initially that that was Barrichello he saw in the distance, and he'll be amazed to find out that that is Michael Schumacher.
Schumacher leads the Grand Prix then from Kimi Raikkonen after a spell of mesmerising driving. This is lap 16 of 60 here at Silverstone. Silverstone, 43 laps to go in the British Grand Prix. You're riding on board with Kimi Raikkonen. We just got a flash of Olivier Panis, who appears to have spun out on track. He's been pushed off the circuit. We've got a yellow flag down there, but nothing too serious. Michael Schumacher leads the Grand Prix. He was fourth in the first stint, but he ran a little bit longer on the fuel than the others in the first stint. And he went to lap 15, the others all fitted around lap 10 or 11. It certainly paid off for Schumacher. He used that clear track to put in some mesmerisingly quick laps, setting the fastest lap here, 1:18.3, much faster than anything anybody else has done. It gave him the clear air, and he's took the lead because Kimi Raikkonen found himself after his stop back in a load of traffic, and he lost 2 seconds a lap to Schumacher during that period of the Grand Prix. And to show you just a kind of advantage he had before, as Pantano spins the Jordan there, he's right behind Michael Schumacher now, and he had 6.5 seconds on him before the first round of pit stops. That's a big loss for McLaren, a huge gain for Ferrari.
You see, Michael has that confidence because he wasn't exactly hustling Jensen in the first phase of the Grand Prix, was he? He just knew when he needed to deliver it, he'd have it there. Save the tyres, keep the car nice, don't then get involved in squabbles you don't need to be in, and then just nailed it when it mattered. And it's no coincidence that he was in a traffic-free zone. The teams all have brilliant systems to know where the other cars are on the racetrack, but Michael then leapfrogs clean into the lead. Raikkonen second, Button third, and going well, matching the pace of the leaders, albeit 7 seconds adrift. Pantano has spun the Jordan way too wide into starts turning in with a wheel on the grass, and it's not going to stick.
There he goes, around about Giorgio Pantano, back in the Jordan again. There's Eddie Jordan. A lot of rumours this weekend that he sold a controlling interest in that team to the Al Maktoum family from Dubai. They certainly, the family, have confirmed that they are going to buy a Formula One team and rebrand it as a Dubai Tourism Grand Prix. It's certainly going to try and pull some people into Dubai. So Eddie Jordan hopefully with a cash injection in the near future.
And this is an unusual situation. His fire extinguisher has gone off inside the car and he can't see where he's going. That's why Panis sort of wombled off on the outside of Beckett's there. And it does happen, tends to happen more in free practice for some reason. Very unusual for it to happen during race or during testing, when those sort of bits and pieces get taken in and out of the car several times. So Panis then unusually grinding to a halt with the fire extinguisher. Couldn't see too much from the outside shot, but that's the news we're getting.
Michael Schumacher then on lap 20, leading by just over a second, but Raikkonen lapping at exactly the same pace. That last lap he was a tenth faster than the Ferrari, so this McLaren really is going like a rocket in the hands of Kimi Raikkonen. David Coulthard also running strongly in the sister car, down in 7th place at the moment. And what about Giancarlo Fisichella, 5th at the moment in the Sauber? Once again they've gone with a very heavy fuel load in qualifying, and we didn't really see the pace of the Sauber yesterday in qualifying, did we? But I know, talking to the team, they've done an awful lot of work in the aero department, certainly the back of the car, and that car getting faster and faster all the time. Watch out for the Sauber team. Well, David Pitchforth, Managing Director of Jaguar Racing, joins us on the pit wall. We're meeting the team with Jaguar this weekend, and we're having a nice shot at the moment, David, of Alonso looking at the back of your man Mark Webber. How's it going?
Yeah, it's going okay for us this weekend actually. Mark's sticking to the plan. Obviously Alonso is a bit faster than us and we're holding him up, but that's the way we like it.
What about Clean? Has he got any problems down there in 15th, Dave?
No, Clean's doing okay as well. He lost a couple of spots at the start, which was frustrating. But you know, he's got to stick to his plan as well. We need to do something to get him around the Toyota.
What's your latest forecast for our wonderful British weather?
No, it's dry.
Dry for the rest of the day.
Yep.
Looks like you might be about to lose a place here, David, as you talk to us here on F1 ITV, but your man Mark Webber, very aggressive as always. He's mixing it nicely with the Renaults, isn't he?
He needs to keep that car nice and wide so we don't keep him behind us.
Well, listen, thanks for joining us. Hopefully we'll speak to you a little bit later on in the race. Alonso gets a little bit mixed up with the Minardi there, has to go around the outside, and that's a little breathing space for Mark Webber.
Yeah, it'll yo-yo around because, as Dave Pitchforth said, that the Renault is faster at this stage. Alonso out of position with a 10 grid slot penalty for an engine change during the weekend, and also then having to make an early stop, stuck in traffic. And now we're on board with Mark Webber looking back at Alonso, looking at him, watching us and all of that sort of thing. But in Luffield corner, and this will be then down the pit straight. So we're now looking back at Webber from Alonso, and we'll cut back and show you the opposite view heading down to Copse. Incredible acceleration down there. A tailwind makes the car a little bit flighty as you launch it into the corner, and the brilliant Maggotts left into the Beckett's right.
Put yourself in the cockpit of Alonso then. What's he thinking? Looking at the Jaguar in front of us, you're looking for weaknesses. What are you seeing?
I'm seeing a bundle of understeer in my Renault for starters, and Webber just looks slow in a straight line, looks handy round the corners, so if you can get up close enough behind him. And what is this all about? It's Raikkonen catching very, very quickly during this lap to Michael Schumacher. He's had 3 or 4 tenths out of him, so Raikkonen now once again showing that prodigious pace he had in the first few laps of the Grand Prix.
Well, this is something, isn't it? A real turn up for the books. Some people would get passed by Michael Schumacher as a result of the first round of pit stops and would say, oh, well, that's that then. He's in a Ferrari. He's the best driver. I'm giving up for the afternoon. But not Kimi Raikkonen. He has every intention of getting that lead back, whether he has to do it on the racetrack, in the pit lane, however he does it. The disadvantage for him is that Schumacher took on a lot of fuel in that first stop, considerably more than Kimi Raikkonen did. And that's going to give him about 10 or 15 laps more than Raikkonen, 10 laps more than Raikkonen approximately. And that is really against Kimi's chances of doing anything to Schumacher this afternoon.
A bit of history between these two drivers. They're both managed by Flavio Briatore, one driving Flavio's own cars in the Renault team, and of course Mark Webber is one of his managed drivers in the Jaguar car. They're all moving around at the moment for next season, and a bit of bad blood between them too when they've tripped over each other in races earlier this season. So we'll keep a close eye on this scrap for 9th and 10th. But more importantly, I think Button and Barrichello are also homing in on Michael Schumacher and Kimi Raikkonen. The top 4 separated by just over 8 seconds.
Yeah, the fuel's definitely got something to do with this. Schumacher is heavier at the moment. Raikkonen, Button and Barrichello are closing up to him. Can they pass him? Ted, what you got for us?
Just a quick line on Jordan. Giorgio Pantano's having more trouble. He's flat spotted his tyres now, and the tyres, the handling's gone away completely. Terrible vibrations in that car. Giancarlo Fisichella is also making his pit stop.
There's a man with a lot to smile about at the moment, Ron Dennis. He took it on the chin at the beginning of the season when McLaren were underperforming. He put his hands up and said, we're not good enough, we have got to get better. And get better they most certainly have in the biggest possible way here at Silverstone. Giancarlo Fisichella finally makes a pit stop on lap 24, drops the clutch, puts plenty of fuel into it. That will drop him back to around about 9th place, so a good gain there for Fisichella for running so long in his Grand Prix. Look at this battle for the lead though.
Got a bit of a carbon copy, haven't we, of qualifying, where the Ferrari was much quicker down to Stowe Corner, and then the McLaren and other cars quicker on the infield, and the final run through the lap, and Raikkonen really closing him down. They're pretty much matching lap time for lap time, but Button and Barrichello are a second a lap faster.
Yep, they certainly are, pushing very, very hard indeed. I wonder if Button's feeling the same people power that Nigel Mansell used to feel. He reckoned it was worth a second, half a second a lap every single time here. Look how close Raikkonen is now to Michael Schumacher. The crowd certainly enjoying this one here at Silverstone. Caps coming off as we go past. Right, there we are, across the start-finish line. And Raikkonen is now just 0.6 of a second behind the race leader.
Ferrari sitting pretty here, because if Michael ends up backing Raikkonen and Button into Barrichello, and you're absolutely right, I think, in saying that Michael's got the heavier fuel and is going to go further, so sitting quite pretty. I just wonder if the team are pretty content to see Button and Barrichello homing in on them at a second a lap, because it plays into the second Ferrari's hands very nicely.
Yeah, there's nothing I like more than a 1-2 here, but Barrichello, his strategy certainly hasn't worked for him this afternoon. He looked like he was sitting pretty, as you would say, in the front row of the grid, as Alonso once again lines up the Jaguar of Mark Webber, but unable to make the pass into Copse. Barrichello then starting in front of Michael Schumacher this afternoon, but he's now 4th and 7 seconds behind Michael Schumacher on lap 25 of this 60-lap British Grand Prix.
19 runners then, 1 retirement. Olivier Panis, we understand his fire extinguisher went off in the middle of the Beckett's curves, so the only man not running in the race at the moment. And there then are the 2 I'm telling you about that are just homing in very quickly. The gap from the leader to P4 now, the 2 Ferraris, is 7 seconds. Michael Schumacher leads by 0.5 of a second from Raikkonen. Button is a further, see him go 5.8 down, and Barrichello half second adrift of him. So now under 7 seconds, and Alan McNish has found Olivier Panis.
Olivier, a very bizarre incident, I understand.
Yeah, well, it's just the extinctor, you know, for the if you have a problem with the fire and the monocoque explodes and put a spray on the visor and all the steering wheel, and I going straight and I stop the engine stop.
And very unfortunate, but a very bizarre incident.
Yes, and very difficult weekend for us and for myself, but now thinking on next one.
Okay, then rejoining. This is the Schumacher-Raikkonen battle, and we have somebody pitting. Who is pitting? It is Genet then. Genet and Alonso pitting. They were line astern on the racetrack in 11th and 12th. Just a second adrift, so it's a straight fight between the mechanics. Genet away very quickly.
Yeah, good stop there. And interestingly, Giancarlo Fisichella rejoining after that very late first stop for him, broke up that Webber-Alonso battle. So once again, Alonso struggling with the traffic here this afternoon at Silverstone, and the team getting him into the pits in order to avoid any more problems with traffic. We're being told by race control that Gianmaria Bruni, we saw him making his pit stop a few minutes ago, had a drive-through penalty, so ignoring blue flags. So at the moment, on lap 27, Michael Schumacher leading by just 0.4 of a second from Raikkonen. Button's 3rd, and Barrichello is 4th, closing on the leader. Lap 29 of the British Grand Prix at Silverstone. Kimi Raikkonen pits from second place. So too does Rubens Barrichello. Who's going to get out first? They were getting very, very close together. Looks like Raikkonen's away first. And they put almost identical amount of fuel into the car. But you can see what Martin was talking about before, about how Ferrari were trying to back the cars, to back Raikkonen into Barrichello. And after this second stop, they'll have to stop again here this afternoon. And I think that what Ferrari have in mind is that Raikkonen...
Look, this is for position, James. Sorry to interrupt you, but that's for position. Barrichello ahead of Jenson Button. So that he remains in third place. I wondered if Jenson he's made his second stop, hoped he could do something about Barrichello. It didn't work out.
No, it didn't work out. So he loses a position that he gained first round of stops. But as I was saying, I think Ferrari are hoping that Barrichello will get Raikkonen next time around if he doesn't get him on the racetrack first. So Kimi Raikkonen under serious pressure here from Ferrari. As on the racetrack, Alonso lines up Cristiano Di Matta in a battle for 12th. We've seen a lot of Alonso this afternoon. That's what happens when you get a fast car out of position down the back of the field.
Well, what's odd is he keeps passing people, yet it seems to drop down the order somehow after that early stop. Alonso, really lots of action, but no sign of any points, as Raikkonen getting a little bit wider than he would wanted to have been there. He's done the fastest middle sector of anybody in the Grand Prix so far. He knows he's got to try and do something about Michael Schumacher. Schumacher then staying out at the moment on his longer fuel stop. We've got Montoya pitting from what is now fourth place. He passed Coulthard and Trulli in the last round of pit stops, and Ted is down there.
Well, the stop is going well so far. Now David Coulthard needs to pit. It's a decent stop for Montoya. Coulthard's going to make quite a lot of time. I'm not sure he can do it because McLaren are ready with his tyres, probably in the next couple of laps.
Coulthard was about 6 seconds adrift, and you're watching there Raikkonen, and look at that. That's David Coulthard then, who's not yet pitted, and Barrichello behind him on fresh tyres. So that is, I wonder if Coulthard will come into play for Kimi Raikkonen, his teammate. We're definitely seeing a little bit of team riding this afternoon.
No love lost between the McLaren and Ferrari teams, certainly not between the people that run them. Ron Dennis and Jean Todt virtually spitting at each other every time they sit in the same room. There is Ron Dennis up on the pit wall. Is he using Coulthard here to just back Barrichello a little bit, because Barrichello certainly is putting Raikkonen's second place at risk here at Silverstone. So as you said, Martin, real team tactics at work, and well, all the drivers going absolutely flat out in the quest for glory. Raikkonen will be frustrated that he got stuck in the traffic after his first stop, otherwise he would have rejoined ahead of Michael Schumacher, and we'd be looking at a very different kind of Grand Prix as we ride on board with Jenson Button, currently in 6th place, but he has stopped twice. Some of the cars in front of him have not.
Coulthard pits then, so he won't be, in fact he did his fastest lap on the way in, his fastest sectors. There's Coulthard getting a clean visor. He has been in a lot of traffic this afternoon, and the summer flies and all the other rubbish you get on your windscreen on the road just goes straight out. Our windscreen is the visor of the helmet, and away then goes Coulthard. I would imagine he should just about keep position. We'll look out for Jarno Trulli when he makes his second stop.
And that was good news for Jenson Button, who we rejoin here, because Coulthard was one of the cars in front of him. So Button now up into 4th place. Schumacher leading on lap 31, 23 seconds ahead of Kimi Raikkonen, with Rubens Barrichello 5 seconds back from the McLaren now, and then Jenson Button in 4th place, just a second behind the Ferrari of Rubens Barrichello. So Button and Barrichello really going at it this afternoon here, almost matching each other lap after lap for pace, and plenty of things to be contested here still in this Grand Prix. At the moment, if Michael Schumacher was to pit right now, he would rejoin behind Kimi Raikkonen. So he's still got some work to do to eke out that advantage.
It's not all over by a long way. Michael, though, of course, lapping faster now. Raikkonen's got been fueled up a little bit. He's about a second a lap faster as Michael Schumacher, and he knows he's got to keep the hammer down. Raikkonen has got a fast enough car. We've got a sick Minardi just gone past the commentary box window, and looking like it's going to drop out of the Grand Prix. The other Minardi in the pits for a schedule.
Oh, got an accident there. He's gone with the fuel hose attached, and he has stopped. And then the other Minardi, meanwhile, looks like it's smoking as it was earlier on. That looks pretty terminal to me. But let's hope that the refueling mechanic down at Minardi is okay, because it looked to me as though there was real chaos down there, and no clear signals given. The refueling man It's difficult to tell whether he's all right or not, really, but the car has stopped, and we'll bring you news from down there as soon as we have it.
Right, let's look at that. Truly yet to stop, but Montoya has stopped and appears to be coming up quite quickly behind him. Montoya with some sensible speed at this stage of the Grand Prix, but he lost out heavily in the early stages. And I don't think he'll be able to do too much more without some reliability issues amongst the top 3 or 4 runners.
You can say that again. He's 46 seconds behind the race leader, which is more or less where he was in France at the end of the Grand Prix. And here we are only just after half distance. So a lot of work to do. But of course, Michael Schumacher does have to stop again. So 20 odd seconds you can take away from that.
We have news from down at Minardi with McNish.
Yes, he came in, he pulled away a little bit early. The hose wasn't out, as you saw, but the refueler is okay. He's got a sore arm. The car is now back out on track.
Good news. Calling him McNish like he's still a driver. We always refer to the drivers, don't we, by their surnames, rather than Alan working with us this weekend as an ITV man.
Yes, indeed. Riding on board then with Montoya. Was quite scathing yesterday in his press briefing as Jarno Trulli pits from 9th place. Montoya saying that the aerodynamics department at Williams has stalled. That was the word he used. It's stalled. Certainly a lot of new stuff coming onto the car, but he says it's just not making it go any faster. He felt it was extremely sensitive to the high winds yesterday out on the track in qualifying. And well, I suppose because he's heading for the outdoor at the end of this season, he feels he can say what he likes now, and he's describing it not a very pretty scene at Williams at the moment.
I know, and that he knows that would give them the most pain, because the team have really, mortgaged themselves up on wind tunnel facilities, haven't they? Probably got the best in Formula One. Maybe some of those facilities haven't put anything on the car yet, as they're recently up and running. But Montoya knows that would go straight into the soft underbelly, that comment.
Certainly would. Sam Michael, who took over very recently, the young Australian, as technical director, well, he'll be working very hard to rectify the situation as David Coulthard, twice a winner here at Silverstone, runs a little bit wide, picks up a bit of mud on his tyres. It's the equivalent of soccer's chalk on your boots, I suppose.
He's got Sato. He's made his second stop down in 10th place. Coulthard with Sato chasing him, and Alonso doing nothing really about D'Amata. He's down now in 13th place. Young Fernando Alonso having a Grand Prix weekend to forget.
Certainly is, after his second place last weekend in Magny-Cours, where he arrived here after that saying, I feel great. I bet he doesn't feel quite so great here this afternoon. Fernando Alonso, 13th, despite having passed lots and lots of cars here this afternoon. It just isn't working out for him. Meanwhile, Mark Webber, with whom he was battling not long ago, going very strongly in the Jaguar in 7th place. So another good weekend for Jaguar off the back of their French Grand Prix, where they were very, very competitive, finishing within half a minute of the race winner, which is good by their standards, but didn't yield them a point. Can Webber get some points here this afternoon?
Look at Fisichella up there in 5th place, James, on a 2-stopper doing 1:20.5, a great lap time. He's really flying this afternoon. He's going to get in there and embarrass a few people if he carries on that sort of pace. Lots of talk in the paddock at the moment that maybe Jarno Trulli has not and will not re-sign for Renault. Fisichella could go there. Obviously, we think Webber's going to Williams, and maybe there's a little upset, an unexpected bit of manoeuvring going on in the paddock for the 2005 season. It'll surprise a few people.
Yes, you might be right. Certainly the comments of the Renault team after Trulli's mistake on the final lap at Magny-Cours, they said we don't tolerate mistakes very well here at Renault. Jarno took it on the chin, said it was the worst mistake in 22 years of racing, but it didn't go down well at Renault. They were looking for 2 men on the podium. They didn't get it on the day because Trulli fell asleep in the last corner and was pipped by Rubens Barrichello, and maybe that's just unsettled things a little bit. Certainly Toyota is a possible destination for Jarno Trulli, we're being told. And you're right, could change the driver market quite a little bit. Here's Kimi Raikkonen pushing very, very hard. That last lap, he was 0.3 of a second faster than Michael Schumacher. And this, Martin, a pivotal point in the Grand Prix now, because Schumacher needs around about 23 seconds in his pocket to make a stop and rejoin ahead of Raikkonen. And they both have one more stop to make, don't they?
Well, we think so. Remember, Ferrari swerved around and did a 4-stopper. I wonder if they're doing the opposite this afternoon, James. I wonder if they've changed it and wrong-footed everybody again for a 2-stopper when we thought it was pretty much a standard 3 today. So we'll see how that unfolds, but Michael Schumacher's lead currently 25 seconds. Barrichello and Button have spread out a bit. Barrichello solidly in third now. Button with poor pace at this stage of the race. That's bad news.
Yeah, we've seen it before from the BAR team. They have flattered to deceive. I mean, let's not knock them too much. They've had 7 trophies out of the 10 Grand Prix so far, but not always putting the whole package together in a Grand Prix weekend. But they are a young team and they are coming up very quickly. As Takuma Sato, teammate to Jenson Button, having a fairly low-key weekend by his standards, he comes in from 10th place. Lives in Marlow, Takuma Sato knows this place like the back of his hand as he came up through the British junior ranks. Took the decision that no other Japanese driver has ever taken to move to Europe and embed himself in British motor racing culture, figuring that was his best way to get himself into Formula One. It certainly worked, but here today, a bit of a quiet afternoon for Takuma.
Webber and Massa, 7th and 8th at the moment, on a different plan for their afternoon. And everybody said to me in the paddock, 3-stopper was an absolute no-brainer in terms of the race pace, but other drivers and teams making the two work pretty well at the moment. Most notably, as I say, Fisichella, who's currently up in the P5.
Well, it looked like a bit of a change of heart, really, by the Ferrari team. They brought Michael Schumacher in, having run him a little bit longer, but not much longer in the first stint than the McLaren. And they obviously decided to put the extra fuel in. They're ready now for a second stop for Michael Schumacher. This is lap 37. He's got 25.5 seconds in his pocket, and this is where Raikkonen really needs to get the hammer down. It's probably going to be enough to get him to rejoin. Another tear-off comes. That's always a sign a driver is getting ready for business. This is a very, very important part of the Grand Prix now, a very important moment. Ferrari can't afford any slips in this pit stop. Ted, take us through it.
The Ferrari boys get to work. Michael hits his marks perfectly. Are they changing the front wheels? Yes, they are. They have to on a 2-stop. It's quite a long stop. Remember, he's got to make this to the end of the race. Still fueling. And what's the time on that? That's a long stop. 9.5, but that is to the end of the race. Where does he come out?
And remember, with a heavy car, Raikkonen was faster when Michael was loaded up. You can see Raikkonen, I believe, in the background there. Schumacher will continue to lead this Grand Prix.
Almost a carbon copy of what happened at the first pit stop, and Raikkonen, just as he comes around Copse Corner, sees Schumacher emerging in front of him. So Schumacher maintains the lead of the Grand Prix. Kimi Raikkonen pushing very, very hard in second place. Barrichello third, Button fourth, Fisichella fifth, and Montoya is still sixth. 40 of the 60-lap British Grand Prix. Michael Schumacher leads. Kimi Raikkonen is hassling him, but Raikkonen has another stop to make. So he's lost ground in the middle part of this Grand Prix. And with Schumacher making his second stop of the afternoon, it's brought him back into the clutches of Raikkonen, who has a much lighter car at this phase of the Grand Prix. And will we see him try and pass the man on the track? Certainly looks like he's shaping up for it.
Well, it's his only chance to, he's got to get in front of Michael and then pull out an enormous advantage. Michael has just been solidly 3/4 of a second faster for 10 laps and made himself some space. And Raikkonen knows that his best chance is to give him a side swipe on the way past, frankly, because I don't think he's got the pace to do it. And now Michael's going to once again back Raikkonen into the pack if he's not careful. Barrichello just 2.5 seconds adrift in the second Ferrari. The crucial part of the Grand Prix then for Raikkonen to seize the chance to get past Michael Schumacher. Schumi just placing his car gently on the apexes, and worst case scenario then for Kimi Raikkonen. Let's see what the gap is this time. 3/10 between those two, but where's Barrichello? Now just 1.5 seconds behind Kimi Raikkonen, and on the same strategy. I'm sure that there's a bit of team play going on here. Can't blame them, it's fair enough. Exactly what I'd want to do if I had this opportunity in front of me. Button has fallen away by 9 seconds from Barrichello, but his pace at least has now picked up.
Ferrari put the squeeze on Raikkonen with 20 laps to go in the British Grand Prix. The first 3 cars are separated by less than 2 seconds on the racetrack, and Ferrari really are putting... Oh, it's a big crash for Jarno Trulli. He's hit that tyre wall really hard. Looks like he's okay, but that was a huge crash.
I think he's dropped it on the exit of Bridge Corner by the looks of it, and yeah, and safety car standing by, and there is why, because clearly a lot of debris. I think we're now coming into that zone. It's an unusual camera shot. Yes, we are, with a wheel in the middle, and they've got to slow down. And yes, Jarno Trulli, safety car deployed, safety car is out.
So will Raikkonen take the opportunity to come into the pits, I wonder? You can see the amount of debris. That's going to take a while to clear up, and McLaren will be thinking fast. It's happened at the perfect time for Raikkonen. Does he dive into the pits? Yes, he does. He's going to get a free pit stop here, and so does Barrichello. There's going to be a race to get them both out again, but this is a really interesting moment of the Grand Prix. Ted?
This is great, and Williams are out as well. Everyone taking advantage of this safety car period. Raikkonen hits his marks. This is the final stop that he needs to get him through to the end, and perhaps, we hope, challenge Michael Schumacher. The fuel goes in. Jenson Button pitting as well. Let me tell you, Jenson was unhappy with his last set of tyres. That's why he was dropping off.
And Raikkonen out in front, crucially just of Barrichello, and all the advantage Michael Schumacher built up has now been wasted, but he has got track position. There will be back markers between them on the restart, I would imagine, but that has definitely neutralised the race, James.
Yeah, it's very interesting though, because some of the cars who you would expect to stay out, the two stoppers like Fisichella, also made their pit stops. So we will see where everybody is when they come back out on the racetrack, what the order will be for the restart, but that could have worked out super well for Kimi Raikkonen and Rubens Barrichello. And that's a stroke of luck possibly for Raikkonen, just as he was coming under the most intense pressure from the Ferrari team.
You see, it's like a free pit stop, because the safety car obviously is quite slow, so you're making your pit stop, and all you're really doing is losing a bit of, you go further down the snake, further down the queue, but you rejoin immediately, and as I say, effectively a zero cost pit stop. Michael Schumacher leading then. We'll be back shortly.
lap 43 of the 60-lap British Grand Prix. We are behind a safety car due to an enormous accident for Jarno Trulli. He's okay and has jumped out of the car, but you can see the track workers clearing it away. And here's a look at what happened.
He dropped it on the exit of bridge. He was well through the corner, and then rolls over the rollover bar, digs into the gravel trap. He was walking away after this incident. We know he's okay. This is a replay. Jarno Trulli then with a sizable accident on the exit of the terrifying bridge corner. But the cars are so good now, they've been taking that full throttle quite comfortably. I asked Mark Webber yesterday when he was doing our lap guide, you know, is it easily full throttle? He said, yeah, even on used tyres we can get it just through full. So was it a technical problem there, structural problem with Trulli's car? It's unusual to see a driver lose it quite so quickly. Normally they would be darting around a bit before they spun off. But this is going to be fascinating, James. It's exactly the sort of situation that Michael Schumacher doesn't need. The Bridgestone tyre, we saw at the beginning of the Grand Prix how fast Raikkonen was when the tyres are cold or much colder than they normally run. And there are two back markers between them, Klein and D'Amato, and they should both get straight out of Raikkonen's way. They've been lapped, they should get the blue flag. Raikkonen's got a chance.
He certainly has. They are all fueled to the finish. No one has to make any more stops. 17 laps to go here. Plenty can happen in those 17 laps, and we saw Kimi Raikkonen be super fast in the opening stint of this Grand Prix. He was unlucky to lose out to Michael Schumacher in the pit stops, largely through traffic, but here he has a chance at redemption, a chance to give McLaren a victory that would really give them such a boost. He's very strong here this afternoon. He's been under a lot of pressure from both Ferraris. Gives a second chance to Jenson Button as well, who'd been losing ground in the middle part of the Grand Prix. He is now in fourth place, right up behind Rubens Barrichello. He too is on those Michelin tyres that will possibly be able to attack Barrichello in the early part of the restart. A lot of thinking to do then for Ross Brawn, the man born in Manchester, and who steered Benetton to 2 world titles in the mid-1990s and has been behind all but 3 of Michael Schumacher's 79 Grand Prix victories. And there's not much he can do now because the cars are fueled to the finish, and it's up to the drivers now. There's his adversary, Adrian Newey, technical director of McLaren. Terrific scrap here between two top teams, and Ted has news for us.
Just checked out the situation at Renault. You won't be surprised to hear that Jarno Trulli chose not to discuss the incident on the radio after that crash, wanted to get straight out of that wrecked chassis. The team have had to assure Fernando Alonso that Jarno is okay. Fernando wanted to know. There's also no indication on the telemetry that anything broke. But guys, remember that the G-forces around here at Silverstone, now the lap times have tumbled. The G-forces have gone up correspondingly. 6G Jenson Button was recorded as doing in practice. So maybe that's had some kind of effect on the Renault.
Yes, indeed. It is an important thing, really. If it was structural, then they've got to think about Alonso. But did Trulli touch anybody early in the race that can often give you a hairline fracture or something? But whatever, the safety car is coming in on this lap, and it's all about now who's Raikkonen desperately needs D'Amato and Klein to be right up behind Michael Schumacher. Raikkonen in fourth place there. It's a net second. There are 2 back markers in front of him if he's going to have a good run at Michael Schumacher.
Remember, you're not allowed to pass before the start-finish line. As you say, Raikkonen really needs that Toyota and that Jaguar to play ball. A lot of the helicopters you can see there. It's always still one of the busiest airports in the world on race day, Silverstone. Helicopters coming in and out, ferrying individuals and corporate guests, and they are all, like the rest of us, on the edge of their seats as Schumacher gets ready to drop the hammer on the restart with only 16 laps to go here at Silverstone. And hold on to your hats, because this is going to be fun.
The Abbey chicane coming up then, and Kimi's got to be just trying to get as much temperature as he can. It does nearly nothing, unfortunately, that you've got little more than the weight of the car. There's no downforce at this speed, but he's got to be right there, and he's got to hope these back markers realise they should get straight out of the way. And Michael backing the pack up. I'd be gone if I was him.
Certainly would. Christian Klein is the man right in front of Raikkonen. He's letting him go at the moment. Raikkonen's obviously going to try and build up some momentum through the final sequence of corners. Schumacher being told on the radio what Raikkonen's up to. He's thinking it's like pursuit cycling this. When do I go? When do I go? When do I drop the hammer? How much are those 2 cars between us going to help me? Now Schumacher starts to pick up the pace, does he? The safety car peels in, and Raikkonen is monstering the back of Klein. Hopefully Klein will get out of his way, and D'Amato as well. And we're restarted here at Silverstone, and Schumacher's flying, and look already at Raikkonen. He's going to try and get Klein into Kopp's corner. He doesn't get him into Kopp's corner, but Klein's got to get out of his way.
He has, but I just don't understand why they were leaving such big gaps. They should have been almost nerfing them through that left field corner. And it's given Michael a bit of a run, but Raikkonen's car, I'm sure, will be much faster at this stage of the Grand Prix, and that Toyota is obliged to get straight out of the way. It's a lapped car. Kimi deciding to use a little bit of his slipstream down the straight though, and now it's a direct 1-2 for Michael Schumacher and Kimi Raikkonen. Button was having a good look at Barrichello too. There they are, they're third and fourth, and Montoya looking good in fifth too.
Schumacher leads then, Raikkonen second, Barrichello third, Button fourth, Montoya fifth. Fisichella still in sixth place. We ride on board with Jenson Button from Great Britain. He's looking at the back of the Ferrari of Rubens Barrichello, and I saw a gesture there from Kimi Raikkonen as he went past D'Amato down the main straight, which was fairly obscene, and I think indicated he felt, as you did Martin, that the Toyota should have been much closer to the back of the Ferrari to help him out there. People diving out of the way, there gets Clean out of the way of Button. This is a terrific scrap here, and now Raikkonen is right with Michael Schumacher. He's got the advantage at the moment. The Michelin tyres, grip holding on better. Can he pass Michael Schumacher for the lead of the British Grand Prix? Just 14 to go as they cross the start-finish line.
And there's been a clear pattern all weekend. The Ferrari is quick through the fast stuff at the beginning of the lap, and the McLaren much quicker through the middle and end section. But this is where the overtaking's done, I'm afraid, down into Stowe mostly, and Raikkonen crucially cannot quite stay close enough to Michael Schumacher. Too much understeer in the turbulent air, and look at the gap he pulls out, and I think he'll haul him back in as the lap unfolds.
Now Barrichello tucks up behind the Toyota. D'Amato gets a little bit of a tow down the straight. D'Amato nips in behind him, and Button has got to get round the Toyota as well now, and he will dive out of the way. He is a lapped traffic. Cristiano D'Amato running in 13th place, and well, he won't have enjoyed that experience.
Montoya follows Button through as well, so Button, from threatening Barrichello, suddenly has to be all in his mirrors. There you go, Button and Montoya, who's done a very solid job through this Grand Prix. David Coulthard is down in 7th. I don't know if he's anywhere near Fisichella, 6th place man, but this is what it's all about at the front. And somewhat surprisingly for me, Kimi's not as close as I thought he'd be in this final part of the lap. Look how much quicker he is though, through the apex of those slow corners.
He certainly is. He's terrific in the slow corners, this the new McLaren. On that last lap, Martin, he was a second and a half faster than Michael Schumacher. Just shows you how much pain he took trying to get past those two cars at the restart. Without that, he might well be in a position to attack.
Yeah, the moment was there, you're right, James, and you know, when you see a replay you just wonder why they're not, and Barrichello was a full sort of 100 metres behind Raikkonen. He should be just hustling them all the way, but the trouble is the part of the racetrack where the overtaking's done, and not those slow corners at the end where Raikkonen's faster.
Down the straight they go then, with 13 laps still remaining in this British Grand Prix. It's been, well, Grand Prix racing at its very finest, you have to say. Terrific amount of overtaking, some interesting strategy, a safety car bunching them all back up again, and, well, and a real attacking drive by Kimi Raikkonen. Is it all too late now? Michael Schumacher seems to have rediscovered his rhythm. His tyres are now in harmony with his car and this chilly Silverstone racetrack. And he is pushing very, very hard. That moment, that lap, Raikkonen's car a second and a half faster than Schumacher's. What might have happened if he didn't have to pass those two cars the lap before, hey? Well, we'll never know, but can he attack in the remaining 13 laps? Great three-car scrap going on for the final points-paying position here this afternoon between Webber, Massa and Alonso. Those three absolutely nose-to-tail for the final single point for 8th place.
Michael Schumacher's lead exactly 1 second then. Barrichello is 2.5 seconds further behind Raikkonen. Button keeping him honest, to say the least, and an enormous fight going on down the field. Montoya, Fisichella, Coulthard 7th, Webber 8th, Massa 9th, Sato 10th in the second BAR. Genet 11th. Alonso has stopped somewhere. Alonso in the second Renault has stopped in the first sector, James.
Yeah, from 10th place, that moves Takuma Sato up into 10th place. There goes Juan Montoya through your screens. Williams announcing this weekend that HP, their main sponsor, renewing their sponsorship for a multi-year period. So that's a big cash injection for Sir Frank Williams' team. And that'll be a big sigh of relief for them, because those big sponsors, they really do need to be kept hold of. You don't want them walking away from your team, especially the budgets that these guys run nowadays. You can see, though, Michael Schumacher now over a second clear of Kimi Raikkonen, and Alan McNish down in the pit lane has some news for us on that awful shunt involving Jarno Trulli.
Well, I'm very pleased to say that Jarno's okay. He's in the medical centre, but it's just a precautionary checkup. He had a bit of a bang, but everything looks fine.
Very good news indeed. Let's see what the gap is this time. I really thought Raikkonen would be a lot closer to Michael. It's up to 1.4 seconds. He's losing about 4/10 a lap. And yellow flags out. I suspect that's for Fernando. No, it's not. Alonso stopped out there somewhere, but that is Pantano in the Jordan, and he's bellied out on the gravel trap car. That's, again, he's turned in with his right rear wheel, not just touching the grass, but on the grass. Strange.
Yep, second spin of the afternoon for Giorgio Pantano. Was with his teammate, though, up to that point. Nick Heidfeld keeping him honest, as he has the last few Grand Prix. Giorgio Pantano picking his pace up. And here we ride on board with a man who we were told a minute ago by the computer had stopped. Fernando Alonso now attacking Cristiano de Matas. So that information was sent through to us by the computer. Was it obviously incorrect, because he is still going in 12th place?
What happens is the sensors tend to miss a car for a couple of points on the racetrack, and then it sort of times out and gives you a stop on the screen to say that the driver's stopped out on the track. But quite clearly Alonso has not, and he's not being recorded still. He's not being recorded for sector times, but they're clearly getting him at the end of each lap. What is that?
That's something you don't want to hit at 150 miles an hour is what it is. It's a JCB digger removing the car of Giorgio Pantano, I imagine, but wow. Well, there are yellow flags down there, so the drivers are supposed to slow down, but well, all of the front runners setting a low 1 minute 20, so no one's slowing down really for that one.
No, double waved yellows with JCB on the track. They certainly should not be doing the sort of lap times they are. But I know what it's like in the middle of that pack. You lift off and you play the good guy, and you just lose out heavily by it, unfortunately.
Sato and Cleon's doing well. He seems to have picked the pace up a little bit. Now he's got Montoya as well in 5th place, going strongly. He's picking the pace up too. Giancarlo Fisichella just a second behind him now, and going a little bit faster. So Fisichella hasn't finished yet this afternoon either. 10 laps to go here at Silverstone. Schumacher leading Raikkonen by 1.5 seconds. Rubens Barrichello is 2.5 seconds behind the McLaren, with Jenson Button 1.5 behind the second Ferrari. closing stages of the British Grand Prix at Silverstone. James Allen and Martin Brundle with you. It's been a terrific British Grand Prix once again with just 8 laps to go here at Silverstone. Kimi Räikkönen led early on, had a big early lead from Rubens Barrichello, Jenson Button and Michael Schumacher in 4th place. Is that Schumacher going slowly? No, it's just Schumacher going through the complex. At the moment he is 2.1 seconds ahead of Kimi Räikkönen in 2nd place. Rubens Barrichello is a couple of seconds back from Räikkönen, and Button is 4th at the moment, a couple of seconds back as well, with Montoya and Fisichella now going faster and starting to creep up into the action. The story of the race really, Michael Schumacher running a longer first stint than the rest of them, managed to jump Kimi Räikkönen and everybody else at the start to take the lead, ran a very long second stint, but then a big accident involving Jarno Trulli on lap 41 jumbled things up. As the safety car came out, it gave Räikkönen, Barrichello and Button all a free pit stop, and it really put tremendous pressure on Michael Schumacher at a time when he was really putting the squeeze on Kimi Räikkönen. Turned the whole Grand Prix around, but it didn't change the lead. And critically for Räikkönen, the story of his afternoon is one of traffic. It was traffic around the first pit stops, and it was traffic at the restart. 2 lapped cars in his way, and when he had a faster car than Michael Schumacher in the period immediately after that restart on lap 42, he couldn't use it, and Schumacher was able to maintain his lead. Down the field, it's been a good race for Giancarlo Fisichella and Sauber. They've been very strong here this afternoon, running in 6th place. David Coulthard in the 2nd, McLaren is 7th, and Mark Webber in the Jaguar is looking to get some more points for his team, with Felipe Massa now closing in on the back of him as well. We're riding on board with Fernando Alonso, who's had a very eventful afternoon, starting at the back of the grid. He's been yo-yoing up and down the field, and he's still, after all that effort, in 10th place.
Yes, he's fighting tooth and nail with Massa for 9th, and even if he takes it, there won't be a World Championship point at this time. But he's only then a second behind Mark Webber, you can see in the distance there. So there is a sniff of a World Championship point there for Fernando Alonso. Looking back at him now from Massa's Sauber, and it's been kind of curious. They all got bunched up under the safety car. We were ready for the scrap of all scraps, and they've just gently spread out, haven't they? Almost like a test day. Very strange. Michael just got way too much pace for this man Kimi Räikkönen, who's got 1.7 seconds on Barrichello. Barrichello surely with a half a chance to have a look at him. Montoya can't stay with Button either. Button a little bit lonely now in 4th place. Fisichella doing an astonishing job there in 6th. That was not Fisichella, that particular one.
Certainly is, and don't forget there is still a 2nd Williams seat available. It now seems virtually certain that Mark Webber is going to replace Juan Montoya next season at Williams, but there's still one other seat available. Ralf Schumacher having been confirmed in the past week, moving to Toyota on a 3-year contract starting next year. Schumacher obviously in hospital still at the moment with damaged vertebrae, and Fisichella really, Martin, apart from driving for points and for Sauber here, is driving for his future as well.
I think he is, and he's not doing a bad job with it either, as he's keeping Montoya very honest and searching for 5th place. Ted has further news for us.
Yeah, down at BAR, let's just get a story of Jenson Button's race with the BAR technical director. Jeff, how's it gone? Oh, he's talking on the radio apparently. Oh, he's finished. Okay, how's it gone?
Reasonably well. I mean, it's certainly quite a struggle against the Ferraris. We haven't got the pace, and Räikkönen seems to be as quick as he was in qualifying, but with no problems at the moment.
Seems to be a bit of a Bridgestone circuit. It's a bit of a Bridgestone circuit. You look at where Fisichella is.
We were certainly expecting the Ferraris to be very strong here, but maybe McLaren's a bit stronger than we expected.
Were Jenson's tyres going off towards the beginning of his runs?
He wasn't very happy in his 3rd stint. We'll talk to him after the race.
Thanks, Jeff.
Button then in a solid 4th place. Fisichella, the main scrap really in the top few, is Giancarlo Fisichella beginning to home further and further in to Juan Pablo Montoya for 5th place, and a great camera angle there of Jenson Button in his office.
Yeah, you see the dirt just above the visor over the course of an hour and 22 minutes of flat-out Formula 1 racing, bits of oil, bits of debris and dirt and rubber, all kinds of stuff flying up and hitting him on the helmet. The helmet actually rather reminiscent of yours, isn't it, Martin? Similar sort of design, actually.
Yeah, he's changed it. I think he was going to use that at the French Grand Prix, wasn't he, for an anticipated English football match, and where that didn't take place, and he elected to use it here. I have to say, I think his normal colour scheme is a nicer one.
Certainly stands out better. Jeff Willis there, Ted was talking to, sounding surprised at the pace of McLaren this weekend. He's not the only one. Michael Schumacher saying yesterday after qualifying, genuinely surprised at how fast McLaren were here. They were hoping that they were running a lot lighter than them. And in the event, Raikkonen wasn't running lighter than Barrichello. He did 2 more laps in the first stint. So McLaren really do seem to have turned things around. They will not be all that disappointed, I think, to finish at the moment 3.8 seconds behind Michael Schumacher's Ferrari and to be ahead of the other Ferrari. Given where they were in the first 8 races of this year, that is a tremendous result for McLaren.
We've had some lovely camera angles there. I love those low ground shots as well. ITV, the host broadcasters here, thank you to that team for putting on some great action on our TV screens this afternoon as we go into Bridge Corner. This is a little lift there for Jensen, so maybe it's slippery in there. That is where we saw truly just obliterate his car against the wall before it went into a somersault earlier in the race and caused the safety car moment. Luffield then, a frustrating corner that nobody really likes, and then the track just really opens up and beckons you to give it full throttle. Copse corner, just a slight flick down 1 gear and straight on the paragon. It's so narrow on the exit. You've got a much higher vision point here than Jensen from this particular camera, and the gently slowing but very high speed, as it were, corner of Beckers. And look at Barrichello then now beginning to get closer and closer to Raikkonen. There's Jensen Button in 4th place, Montoya and the ever-present Fisichella 5th and 6th.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? The race pace, the rhythm, if you like, that the Ferraris are able to maintain lap after lap. We've seen it all season, is higher and better than anybody else can do. But here at Silverstone this afternoon, Michael Schumacher had the speed when he needed it. He was able to pull out a second or 2 on Kimi Raikkonen at critical moments in the race, which made the difference. But you have to say that McLaren has been very consistently fast in the hands of Raikkonen here this afternoon. Just at the moment in this Grand Prix, though, the Ferrari of Schumacher pulling out about 0.4 seconds a lap, and that's a lot to do with the performance of the Bridgestone tyre, which has just been so super consistent here. We're right on board there with Alonso down in 10th place as Schumacher goes through. Just 2 more laps to go then in this 192-mile Grand Prix. It's been pretty arduous for the drivers, lots of G-forces on the body, but they've loved, I'm sure, every second of it, because this is one of the favourite tracks of all of these Grand Prix drivers. They love the fast stuff here.
Well, Barrichello stole 3rd place on the last lap of the French Grand Prix just 7 days ago. Is he going to try and do the same for 2nd place this weekend with Kimi Raikkonen? We know how good the Ferrari is in the first few corners and down Hangar Straight. If he gets anywhere near him, surely he's got a good chance. So we're really homing in. Raikkonen under pressure from Rubens Barrichello. This is the main race now towards the end. Fisichella can't seem to do anything about 5th place man Montoya. The rest of them relatively stationary. Alonso still fighting Massa for that 9th place.
Well, Ferrari really tried to put the squeeze on Raikkonen with a strategy. Schumacher backed him up into Barrichello to try and give him a chance to take 2nd off him. And that was the moment at which Trulli had his accident, and that really was a get-out-of-jail-free card for Raikkonen at that point in the Grand Prix. But now he seems to be struggling a little bit on the tyres at the end of this race. And with only 1 lap to go, is Barrichello going to jump him? And some more news from Alan McNish.
Yes, Jarno Trulli thinks that maybe the left rear suspension failed coming through Bridge, and that was the reason for going off, but the team, they're checking the data just to verify everything before confirming it.
Yeah, it certainly looked like that, didn't it? He had the accident after the corner, really, and normally if you're going to lose it with a balance problem, the car just sliding, you can fight it all the way to Priory, and that one just snapped on him and put him straight in the wall. Barrichello not close enough for a look there at 2nd place man Raikkonen.
This is the last lap then of the British Grand Prix. The top 4 runners are separated by 10 seconds here at Silverstone. Michael Schumacher has just a few more corners to go before he wins his 10th Grand Prix in 11 races. And that's only 1 short, Martin, of his own record that he set back in 2002 of 11 wins in a season. How many is he going to end up with at the end of this season?
And the one he dropped out of was because of a crazy incident in the tunnel of Monaco, wasn't it? So I don't think he was going to win that race that day, mind you. Jarno truly had the measure of him at the Monaco Grand Prix, but Michael was still strong for second or third there, so just about the perfect season for the reigning world champion.
Absolutely, it was another story of thinking on your feet and being quick when the moment counted for Michael Schumacher. He didn't have a great qualifying yesterday, but he's had a great race today. He takes his 80th career victory, his third win at Silverstone, and what a tremendous drive by Michael Schumacher, but what a tremendous drive also by Kimi Raikkonen out of the final corner. There you can see the VAR. Raikkonen's already crossed the finish line in second place, Barrichello third, Button fourth, Montoya fifth, Fisichella in sixth place, seventh David Coulthard, and the final points paying position for Mark Webber. But a tremendous drive, and what a performance by Kimi Raikkonen. He really took the fight to Ferrari here this afternoon, and not too many people would have put money on that a couple of weeks ago.
No, I wondered if he had enough pace though to take it, James. He'd been fastest in just about every session through the weekend, put it on pole with a great lap, but he thought, right, okay, Raikkonen has got a chance to beat Michael Schumacher today. The Bridgestones did seem stronger than the Michelins. Michael enjoying those Bridgestones, but Raikkonen, I think, certainly made the best of what he'd got.
So quite a few contenders for the driver of the day today, Martin. Michael Schumacher obviously nimble when it mattered. Raikkonen, tremendously feisty drive here. Jenson Button on home soil. Montoya made a good recovery after a bad start. Fisichella back of the grid again, up into sixth place in the Sauber. Who's your choice?
Easy, Fisichella. He hasn't got a car out there that would remotely match Michael Schumacher's. He may have last year's Ferrari just about, but nowhere near as good as this car, and the team do not have the resources. I think he's put in the best performance of the day without doubt. Great run from him. I think it's just the raw pace he showed through the Grand Prix that impressed me as much as his ultimate sixth place.
Yep, just 12 seconds behind the race winner. Bear in mind though, we did have a safety car which bunched the field up on lap 42, and that's why the field looks as close as it does at the end of the Grand Prix. Perhaps wouldn't have been quite the same without that, but nevertheless it offered a final chance to Kimi Raikkonen, and as we saw, he wasn't able to take it through reasons beyond his control really. He had a second and a half faster car just after that restart, but two cars got in his way and he wasn't able to use it. So Michael Schumacher wins again, and Ross Brawn, technical director at Ferrari, and Jean Todt, the sporting director, a clasp, shakes hands with the Bridgestone engineers. He loves winning, Ross, and he really loves coming to England with a foreign team, an Italian team, and beating the English teams on their home soil. It gives him more pleasure than just about anything else in his racing, he says.
Yeah, but he's a true Brit at the end of the day, Ross. Just his role and his job is, and what he gets paid to do, is to help Ferrari win races, which he seems pretty handy at, doesn't he? But they're going to be made up with themselves actually, because they surprised everybody last weekend at the French Grand Prix with 4 pit stops. Really went and destabilised the rest of the pack, and I think they've really done the same this weekend, James, but they've gone for 2 instead of 3. So they're like a bar of soap in the bath. You don't quite know where they are, and you can't quite get hold of them, the Ferrari team, in terms of their strategy, and it's paid off again this afternoon.
So the ton up in terms of World Championship points for Michael Schumacher, 100 already, and we've only just got into the second half of the season. There you can see how close behind at the end Raikkonen and Rubens Barrichello were. Barrichello unable to nick that second place off Raikkonen, and I think Kimi will be very happy today, because he and McLaren are definitely back in business. But the traditional Ferrari salute, as I say, a real mixture of support in the grandstands here this afternoon. Typical British sporting response to all the players here, as they've all put on a super show for us.
Yes, when we had Meet the Team last week with Ferrari, it was really interesting to hear several of them say, yeah, even still now when we win a race, there's a buzz, a brilliant feeling in the factory. Everybody's walking on air, and they're still appreciative of their victory. You think they'd be a bit blasé by now. Maybe they'd be thinking, oh, 1-3, we'd really like a 1-2. But Barrichello, I think another solid run, but didn't really deliver his qualifying speed, did he? But now we know why, to a certain extent. Michael Schumacher was carrying quite a bit more fuel.
Started in front of Schumacher on the grid, finished behind him once again, but this time with a car in between. Michael Schumacher then gets out of his... Yes. He loves it. He loves winning just as much as he did at the start of his career. An important point also for Mark Webber in 8th place, Meet the Team this week. with Jaguar. Thank you very much to them for terrific access. Big pat on the Ferrari, the prancing horse from Michael Schumacher. Once again, it's brought him home, and Ross Brawn there gets the hug. These two are very close. I asked Ross the other day what the core of their relationship is, what's the dynamic, and he said trust backed up with an easygoing friendship, and I think that's there for all to see. He trusts Michael to deliver. It's a difficult job driving a racing car, and he knows that when he asks him to do things, it's not easy for Michael to do, and Schumacher trusts implicitly what Brawn tells him to do over the radio. He never ever questions a decision by Brawn, and why should he? Because what a winning formula it is.
Yes, they took the win today. It wasn't easy for them. It wasn't handed to them completely on a plate. Slightly on their back foot with that safety car. Raikkonen then just 2.1 seconds adrift. But you have to say, James, without the safety car, Michael would have won this race by 10-15 seconds at least.
Certainly would. But what a dramatic finish it gave us to the Grand Prix. A few faces down there that come only once a year. People with Italian connections, Ferrari connections that help out down in the pits. Any opportunity to get a red shirt on and get a pit pass. And they're two of the finest drivers in Formula One at the moment. I know Ferrari have a very high regard for Kimi Raikkonen anyway. He certainly would love to line him up as the successor to Michael Schumacher. Only time will tell how long Schumacher carries on for and who does replace him, but they will go for Raikkonen, that's for sure, because they think he's something special, as he's proved here again this afternoon.
Let's come out onto the roster.
Raikkonen had 56 points last year at this stage. As of today, he's got 18. But that's taken a pretty massive leap, hasn't it, by 8 points just in one afternoon.
Only the third time that Schumacher has won the British Grand Prix. It's not been one of his golden tracks. You could almost describe it as a bogey circuit for him. But today, he's put the hoodoo well and truly behind him.